Winter, spring, summer, fall, seasons change, we still keep it together.
Hey, Beverly Hills 90210 fans! Are you ready to dive deep, episode by episode, storyline by storyline, character by character, as we break down the making of your favorite zip code with your hosts, Charles Rosen.
Did I say that?
Harry
All this
Mullen.
foolish thing about the real person, and we're going, what? We're getting rid of this guy.
Pete Ferrero.
I'm feeling wonderful. Kathleen looks TV crush-worthy.
Like so many special guests. And all your questions. Live on the Beverly Hills 90210 show. Oh, yeah. Everybody dance now.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Beverly Hills 90210 show. It's exciting to be back. I know we said we were going to do another Story Slam today and another show, another episode when we were covering the Fling Maggie story. But we decided this week that we needed some extra time on putting that one together. I'm also on the East Coast working on something non-related to the podcast. And so I had the opportunity today to interview Daniel Cosgrove, who played Matt Durning in season 9. And I thought this would be a good opportunity to play that for everybody. So we'll be back next week where we're going to present more Story Slam stuff. And I'm recording more interviews like this with different actors and whatnot. So we're going to throw these into the mix as well. And of course, we're going to get back to doing our deep dive stuff really soon. I know we've got some really awesome things we're covering in November and December, including some more Story Slam stuff as the Festival of Fans continues. I know Larry would want me to make sure that that's clear because we appreciate all of you that have been listening and tuning in. I heard this week from somebody that simply just listens to our podcast driving back and forth to things, and I appreciate all of you and all of the support that you've given the show. So I'm gonna just cut to the chase and play the Matt Durning interview now. I know you guys just kind of want to get in there into that instead of seeing me talk. I'm gonna play a ad for our show shop, and then we're gonna hop into me and Daniel Cosgrove. We talk about it all. And we get into it. He's just an awesome dude. So here it is. We're going to that.
Well. When was the last time you checked out the Beverly Hills 90210 show shop? Because now it's loaded with so much more stuff. Did you ever want to join the gang at CU? Because now you can wear your official CU t-shirt. Or want to get into the fun with America's zip code? Represent with this cool swag. Or maybe you have an invite to the Peach Pit after dark and need the coolest shirt ever. We have loaded the store with so much more. So don't be a squeeze. Head over to Beverly Hills 90210showshop.com for all the latest goods.
All right, this is really exciting. Being joined by Daniel Cosgrove, Matt from Beverly Hills 90210. Man, it's been so long since you've been on 90210. I was just going to ask you, do you remember everything like it was yesterday, or is it kind of, in the distant memory now?
Holy good Lord. Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me. This is, it's truly grateful to be here. I just actually coincidentally finished my last day of therapy because I was just through the ringer with that show. They just abused me, and then I was contacted to do this. So now I'm having some PTSD. No, I'm kidding.
Oh, no.
I'm totally kidding.
I bought into it for a hot second there. I mean, there are well, there is a lot of stories of people that either guest starred or worked on 90210, and that was it was an intimidating sort of situation for them. It was obviously by the time you got on to 90210, it's a huge show. It's a moving, living, breathing thing, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And in all honesty, that's exactly it. So I came in on the ninth season. As we all know, it was 10 seasons, and I came in on the 9th season. Probably started working on perhaps the 3rd, maybe 4th episode of that 9th season. So yeah, just to your point, I didn't know what to expect. And to be quite honest with you, I had been working in New York. I was on a daytime show, and this was the second production that I ever worked on.
Wow.
So this job, 90210, took me out to California and started working on this show that was it was huge, right? It was just this huge, total epic production that is so much of pop culture. So I really didn't know what to expect. But two things. I never enter any well, we'll keep it to the shows, but any production, any new show that I whether it's a guest star or whether if I'm coming onto, I always enter respectfully. I kind of suss out the environment, check out kind of the dynamics, the politics, everything else. I don't have to come in there and try to, make anything about me.
Right.
And I have to tell you, right from day one, it was such a welcoming group.
Oh, that's awesome.
I mean, Jenny and Tori and everyone. And this was Jason's last few episodes on there. He was going to be leaving that year.
I'm going to get into that. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
you came in at such a wild time period because there was so many moving parts. Jason's leaving, Luke is coming back. We're going to talk about all of that, but because you were like, it's almost like you were a fly on the wall, even though you're in it, but you're watching all these kinds of things that are critical to like the show and pop culture sort of happen around you. And it's fascinating to get your take on some of that. But yeah, so I mean, why don't you tell me how did you even come into 90210? I mean, did you have to audition for this character or?
That in itself was such a crazy, and I can go back to a whole, maybe if I can fit it in, I'm going to fit this other story that kind of a puzzle piece.
Okay. I love this.
But I'll get right to like how it all went down.
Well, I love a puzzle piece. If you want to hit me with a puzzle piece, I love a good puzzle piece.
I'll tell you something that's funny, and maybe I'll to set it up. This is this is early 90s, probably 91, 92. Now I worked before I pursued acting full time. I didn't know any actors. I didn't know anyone in the business. I didn't know anything about it.
I love these stories.
I had taken an improv class. I've done one act plays. I told, I think maybe after I left high school, I told my principal or something. I said, yeah, in college, this is something I'm going to pursue. Like I had it that in my mind that was something that I was completely and utterly interested in. I just didn't know how to go about it.
Right.
So I went to school for a little bit and I took some time off, but there's a whole segue. But anywho, I was working as a bailiff. I was working in a courthouse.
This is amazing.
I was working for the New Haven County Sheriff's Department, honestly.
Okay.
And shout out to everybody there. But here, I just want to tell like a quick little thing. There were some people that, should I even tell the story? All right, I'm just going to tell it.
Just tell it. Yeah.
All right. So in the back of my mind, I wanted to pursue acting. I just didn't know anything about it. And so now it was in the back burner of my mind. And
you're in a totally different career.
I really wasn't sure. I was going to school. I got involved in this summer program at the courthouse, took time off from school and stayed full time at the courthouse. Now, my idea when I entered was I was going to graduate with an English degree and then just take it from there with a concentration in writing. I used to journal a lot back then. I thought maybe I'd be a teacher. I started taking, but anywho, I took some time off. And here I am, I'm working at the courthouse. And so what happens is in the morning, people who are perhaps being arraigned or their cases are going on, they come into the courthouse and they're downstairs, and then you bring them up for their case. Well, there was a few familiar faces that I would see. And again, I used to journal and I used to talk to people. And I'll tell you, everybody should work because it gives you an insight and it gives you a point of view that a lot of people aren't privy to. But that's a whole other subject of just, we can go into that. But anyway, so there was probably total about a half dozen people that that I'd see on a regular basis. And I'm not gonna do any impressions, but that I wish they were here to do the impression because it was hilarious. But long story short, after having conversations, they started calling me 90210. And there was a group of guys who would say, "What are you still doing here? We told you to get your boop up to the West Coast and get on that 90210 with that Luke Perry and blah, blah, blah. What are you doing?" And this would go on. This would go on for like
this is just regular people that were being arranged for things. These aren't celebrities or anything like that.
No. This is your everyday, you know, people who
they were busting you or another or encouraging you to get on. Yeah, okay, I got it. Yeah.
Yeah, no, this is, and not even just like maybe their case is going on, so they're spending time, you know what I mean? So they have to come back to court. There's a whole thing. I don't want to get too off guard, but here's the thing: you meet a lot of good people who are just, you know, victim of circumstance and whatever, and you know, and you just have conversations with, and that's the thing. I would talk with people, and in those conversations, getting to know people, they're like, "Hey, you know, you're not like everyone else here. You know?
Right.
You have to go and I never told anybody I want to be an actor or anything like that. It was
so they were just saying it to you because, you know, I mean, obviously,
just saying it. Yeah.
You look like,
now, this is like 91, 92. So I already had the chops. My hair's supposed to be short, but I took my dad's VO5 and I slicked the hair back, you know, had my Doc Martens on.
I love it. Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I had that. And a lot of people are either, you know, in one part of their career, or they're going to start off perhaps going into law enforcement, law school, something like that. But I didn't know what I was going to do.
Right.
And so that was the whole thing. So I'd see them for like years. Yo, 90210.
You got to get on 90210.
What are you doing here? What are you doing here?
Yeah.
Long story short, I reached a point in my life where I was like, you know what? I'm just going to start taking these classes in New York, and I started taking classes in New York City, commuting down from New Haven, and I just loved it. I like, this is it. I loved it. And ended up saving money, moved to New York. Maybe about 2 years later, I find myself, and I'll jump, but I find myself on a soap. I get cast on a soap opera.
What was the soap?
I was cast Scott Chandler on All My Children.
Yeah, I thought so. Yeah.
And that casting was a whole thing, which I like to talk about with younger actors, because I ended up getting a part that I was not auditioning for. I wasn't screen testing for. I screen tested for something else. They said, sit tight. And then 10 days later, they called me up and said, you're going to be this character. I said, okay.
Wow.
So here's, and again, I don't want to take up too much of your time.
No, we're good. They love this. The fans love this. So bring it all, man. I'm not going nowhere. Yeah.
You know, I stopped telling these type of stories, but then you know, when I'm an old timer now, so when younger people ask me, you know, there's some things that I kind of bring forth, and I say, well, here's what happened. So this may happen to you, so be open to it. So what happened was this: I was on All My Children for about 1.5 years, and I said to me wife, because once I got the job, I said, I got married to my wonderful wife, Marie. Beautiful. I said, you know, look, and this is just where I was coming from. It's not a general. I just said, I'm truly grateful for this opportunity. I really am. I'm really grateful to have a job. I really am. But this isn't what I moved to New York to do. Like this isn't what I want to be doing. And I just feel like I wish I can get into a room where the person who makes the decision is actually in front of me. I just wish that would happen. And I said, instead of sending, because you'd send a videotape, right? A videotape, the assistant might watch it, the cat might send it to the casting person.
You don't know who's going to see it. Yeah.
Videotape. I swear to God, I put this energy, right? And it wasn't like I was angry or upset or bitter or anything else. I swear. I put it out there. 2 weeks later, the phone, I wasn't even signed with an agent at the time. I wasn't even signed with an agent when I got, Pete Kaiser sent me on that. So thanks, Pete. But anywho, Spelling was inquiring about like what my deal was, and they wanted to see tape on me, you know, just curious about what I was doing. They saw me on All My Children. They saw me on the show.
Right.
And they'd like to see tape. So we sent tape, and time went by, and nothing happened. I said, oh man,
Now,
Oh.
what year, where is this in the process before you got to 90210? Is this like in the process of season 8 or season 7, or is this even
This
right
is
around when you get on?
well, I moved out there. It must have been around June 98. I think I moved
Okay.
out there.
Yeah.
I must have moved out there around
Yeah.
there. So this is like the beginning of 98. I think
Cool.
maybe the beginning of, spring or summer. Maybe I even moved out a little later, like
Mhm.
right before.
So
And
so they're definitely like sort of plotting out, looking for an actor to replace. I mean, I don't want to say replace Jason Priestley, but they were looking for actors or new actors to come onto the series for something.
yeah, well, here's what got crazy.
Right.
Okay, so long story short, nothing happens. And then I just said, oh gosh, well, maybe, something. Oh gosh.
You're good, man. It's cool. It happens all the time.
So what happened was we sent tape, didn't hear anything, and then we heard back based off of that tape. I didn't think it was going to happen, and then we heard like a little time went by, a month. And what happened was they said we would like him to come out and screen test for this new role that's being introduced on Melrose Place.
Wow.
And yeah, and it was to read for the to be Rob Estey's brother.
Okay. Yeah.
And so I was like, oh my God, it's fantastic. So this, when I went to my show, they let me, go do that, and didn't come back. Two days before I fly out there, they say, you know what, we're going to actually bring on this new character on 90210. We'd like to have him read for that too. So
This is great, man. This is great. What are you feeling with something like that? Because now it's not just one character. It's like they must be heavily considering me, because now they've mentioned one of 2 characters that I can potentially be playing in a spelling show.
Okay, first of all, again, I'm working on the first show that I've ever worked on in my life when this all happened. And literally All My Children was my 6th audition in New York.
Right.
So things came kind of fast.
Very
so
quickly.
Again, and that's why just because of where I was in my life and my path and everything else, I was remaining grateful. But you're still kind of oblivious and ignorant,
Sure,
it's like a truthful place from the point of view of a 20-something-year-old.
Sure.
But and it was also, I was like, okay, this is how it works, It's just like
this will happen for the whole career.
This is what happens. They just they see you, they contact you, and okay, And so I will tell you this, and this is something I discovered later. With this, another thing you can go down to.
Yeah.
I have anxiety. I have social anxiety to so acting for me is something that I think is part of that anxiety, is something that drove me to for my love of this, because I just,
Sure.
I love people. I love humanity. I love.
Well, it's like it's easy for you to be Matt at a party, but it's hard for you to be Daniel at the party. You know what I mean?
Yes, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
But just to answer your question, so anyway, I flew out there, two roles to kind of read for. I got to I can't remember where we were, if we were at Fox or wherever, but I got there super early. Really, I could tell you what I was wearing. I was wearing jeans. I was wearing a gray Calvin Klein shirt, ribbed, and a blue blazer. And I was there super early. I was going into the bathroom and just like in front of the mirror, reciting every monologue that I knew, anything, just like, just trying. And I had that blazer on because I'll tell you, man, I had sweat rings. I was nervous as can be.
I could imagine, man.
And I thought there was going to be like 6 guys there, and there was only me and someone else. And so here's what happens. Okay, I come out. I see Aaron Spelling walking down the hallway. Now, Mr. Spelling, right? He's not the tallest guy in the world, and he's flanked by 2 people. But to me, right then and there, that man was 10 feet tall. I was like, I can't believe it. Because like, I think in the 80s, this guy had like, 60-70% of the productions were.
And he's huge. He's huge. A massive person, huge. Right? But
just the way he carried himself, you know what I mean? Again, I remember he was like, there was 2 people flanking him, whatever, maybe physically taller, but he's the one. It was like, oh my God, I can't believe that. It's surreal.
Right.
What happens is, so you have people for the people who don't know, what happens in this process was, there's people you go into a room, there's people from Spelling Television, there's people from Fox, there was the casting, and I was reading with Rob Estey. So I went in first. I read with Rob. And please forgive me, but I can't.
So remember. Rob is there. Rob is in the room.
I'm reading with Rob.
That's pretty cool too.
With Rob.
Yeah, and that probably doesn't happen all the time. You know what I mean? Like, or
That's the first, other than the screen test for the show that I worked on previous, that's when you're going to work with the actor that,
screen test, right? Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Right.
so it's a screen test, but it's in, in a big room.
Sure.
And oh my gosh, this is so cuckoo cray. So anyway, the other fine fella there, he went and he reads with Rob. And then I get called in to read for the new role. And it wasn't Matt at the time. I don't know the name of the character, but anyway, what happened is I'm going to tell this because this is something that's I tell to other younger actors and everything else. Now for this part, I'm reading with the casting assistant.
Okay, so no one from 90210 is there. It's just
no one from 90210.
Yeah. Okay.
Not that I know of.
Right.
At least not that I'm not reading with it.
Sure.
Not that I know of. And again, I'm like, trying to breathe easy, baby.
Right.
Breathe easy.
Mhm.
Okay. Spelling people. Fox, casting assistant. I'm reading. She's reading the part of Tori's character, Donna.
Okay. Yeah.
It's about a 4 or 5 page scene. Halfway through the scene, the casting assistant doesn't realize it, but she skips her line and reads me my line and is looking at me, just waiting, like thinking she read the proper line.
Right.
This is what you got to do, folks. This is what you got to do.
This is crazy.
What I said in the moment was, oh my goodness, Donna, I know I haven't known you that long, but I feel like what you really wanted to ask me was, and I said her line, I answered it, the casting assistant, and I can't remember names right now, forgive me. And we finished the scene, and she said, after when we finished the scene, she goes, oh my goodness, I'm so sorry. And I believe it was the vice president of spelling at the time said, why, what happened? And so right there, I felt so good because that why what happened to me was that's all I needed. They didn't know.
Right.
Staying in the moment, staying on your feet.
Yes.
Because see, when I approach these scenes, and I think I've always done it, sometimes you get up to get down, sometimes you get down to get on up. And for me, sometimes I get up to get down. So whatever direction a scene goes in, if my partner is kind of fumbling, you're there as your support system. You're there to make that. Your job is to look out for one another in this situation. So in that situation, I kind of kept on my toes. They didn't know I had sweat rings on my collar and my blue blazer was covering.
Exactly, man. Yeah.
And I walked out and I was waiting for the other fellow there to be called in. He didn't get called in. And that was it. Happy ending. My fellow thespian over there got the role. He ended up playing the role of Rob Estey's brother. Right. And I went on to do other stuff too. Forgive me for and then I ended up getting, and can I tell you, when the 90210 role happened, that was my preference. I wanted the 90210.
Right. Well, because you had heard of this at the, prior in your life, you need to get on 90210, right? Some people
so here I was. And not only that, just to jump to the start. So here it is, the 9th season. Okay, Jason is leaving but who comes back in the middle? Luke Perry's coming back to the show. What? He was gone. Like
he had been gone for like he was never coming back, but now he's coming.
But he came back.
Yeah.
And so I always imagined that there was someone, out there in the New Haven area, hopefully out and doing well with his life, all their lives, and saying, I want my 10%.
There he is.
I told him to do it. I told him I want my 10%.
That's really awesome, man.
Yeah, no. So a big shout out to I met you meet all kinds when you work at a courthouse and you see it, and for the most part you meet a lot of good people,
sure,
whatever the situation.
Well, it's interesting though, because I don't know if the character that you read for was Matt. It was not Matt, right? It was something else.
It probably was, but sometimes I give them different names.
Sure.
I don't recall.
But did they use the fact that you worked in a courthouse to create the character, the lawyer? Because your character is a lawyer on the show. You know what I mean? Like,
I know, and that's funny because I think I don't even know if she remembers, but Jenny used to, and I didn't even realize I did because I think she was the first one to call me out on it. I believe, maybe Tori, I don't know. But I always would say, and I didn't even realize I was doing it, I'd always refer to my character as, I play I'm Matt Durning. I'm Matt Durning, attorney at law. I didn't even realize I'm Matt Durning, attorney at law. Like Matt Durning, I couldn't say it without the full title.
It works. It just works so perfectly together.
Matt Durning, attorney at law, in a sweater vest. I'm in a sweater vest most of the time. I am a sweater vest, and here's the thing. In my life, again, because you're young 20s, and I'm trying to be like a good person. I'm trying to I'm on a journey to be like, you're just lost. You're trying to retrofit your foundation of who you are, and trying to find your path. So I think sometimes that got in the way of me trying to be a good person. Probably affected my interpretation sometimes of Matt, where I myself as a person is trying to be good. So, sometimes I was probably a little too maybe soft-spoken, or, too much of
as Matt, you mean?
Doormat Durning, but I don't know. I had a blast though. I had a blast. It was a fantastic time, and truly 100% grateful for that opportunity. Yeah.
Where were you when you get the call that you're going to get 90210? Do you remember what that day was like? And you still had the other show you were doing, right? You were still doing.
Yeah. They said, I guess I can say it now, but you're not so, but they said, look, if this works out for you, fantastic.
Right.
Your journey goes. If not, you're back here. And it probably helped that at that time I wasn't some front burner on the show, on the show, because then they'd be like, no, you can't. But I was on the fray, but I wasn't carrying a big story or anything like that. And anyway, that brought me out to Cali, and I don't remember, but I think I had like 10 days. I had 10 days, and so you fly out there, and I stayed at the same place that I think I stayed when I screen tested, which was, I don't know if I'm supposed to say names, but anyway, I just remember it because it was on the Montrose or something.
Right.
And over on, is it Doheny?
Yeah.
Yeah. And off of there. And I would say, oh God, I have so many great memories. So we stayed at the Montrose, picked up a Sunday Times, looked at places to rent, went up, found a little ranch, a little 2-bedroom ranch up on Stradella there, overlooking, and met a fantastic older woman. I shouldn't say older, but fantastic woman named Mary, and it was her place, and we rented it and stayed there, and it was fantastic.
That's awesome, man. And then you're in the world of 90210. Now 90210, I've done a lot of interviews about it, and it's, they're, like you said, you have to get the lay of the land. What's the politics? What's the interaction? Stuff like that. Was that easy to identify quickly? And because you were there at a time when things were being shooken up. I mean, we just kind of talked about it. Jason's leaving. How soon do you know that is happening?
I think I knew coming in. I think I did. I'm such a cornball. Let me tell you something. I remember, I'm such a cornball because I remember walking into, I remember. Can I just tell you something very, very, and this is when the 90210. I'm just going to segue into
Go for it. Story. Do it. Yeah.
All right. I heard about this podcast, like, hey, they'd like you to come on via email, right? The day before, I went to my local library. All right. I like going to the library, and I had not been to the library pre-pandemic.
Okay.
Because it had closed down. Even before the pandemic, they were going through a renovation process.
Right.
And so I don't know, year and a half, however long it's been since everything shut down. The day before I got the email to come on here, I go and just checking out the new layout and everything else. And I always will go through like the film and stuff.
Sure.
And I like to look at books from like historical perspectives, on the old 20th century Fox system. No doubt. I like reading about the history of it and all.
Of course.
But the one book I take out, and the one book that I'm reading, I'm like, oh man, it'd be so great if my name popped up in here, is Jason Priestley's biography. Where it's all like from every page, like every chapter starts with a different like zip code or something.
Yes, that's right. I love that book. Yeah.
And so I'm going through this book, and just out of random, but I couldn't put it down. I was like going through it. Right. And I put it back, and then next morning I get the email about this podcast. I was like, that's that old Niner,
totally, man.
Old Niner magic. Saying, hey, something's going to happen.
It's funny, when I first started doing this podcast, I think he directed you, Michael Lang. Do you remember Michael Lang at all?
Yeah, I do. Yes.
He told me that someone told him, and he was telling it to me, like, this is going to happen. Once you start doing this podcast, he's like, when I started directing 902, and they were like, you're going to find that you're going to start seeing 90210 everywhere. You're going to be like in your car. Someone's going to mention Jason Priestley. It's like it becomes a part of your universe.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Because I can vouch for that. That's exactly what happened. Here I was. From the beginning of the career, that's why I kind of like prefaced. Here I am in New Haven, kind of lost, not sure.
Sure.
I don't know, what do I know? And then next thing, it all kind of unfolds, and then the day before I come to this podcast, I'm picking
It's
out
so
one
weird.
book. The first
Yeah,
day back
I
to
love
the
it, man.
library. The first day back, I pick out one book out of the shelf to really flip through.
The 90210 magic is back.
It's back, baby.
It is.
But
so
I will
Jason,
say this: I was, and I'm sorry for interrupting, but
No.
I was such a cornball because I remember walking into Jason Priestley's like dressing room, like, and because it was also surreal to me. It really was.
Of course it is.
Bizarre.
Huge. These are huge
So
stars.
bizarre.
Yeah.
Like exactly. And like I said, well established, a well-oiled machine.
Yes.
I think you're gonna come across a bunch of arrogant people.
Right.
It's furthest from the truth.
They're not like that, right? Yeah.
No, it was a great, cool, fun group. But the cornball I am, I just had to just say, I walk into Jason's, I say, man, I just wanted to tell you, because I knew he was leaving like that episode or next episode. I said, it was such an honor and such a privilege to be able to, I don't think we had any real scenes or anything like that. But I said, just to be here and be a part of it and catch you on the way out and stuff. And, something so sappy, but like, that's my thing. Either A, I just keep it to myself, or I go,
but I bet you he appreciates,
he
probably appreciates something like that.
I mean, listen, again, these are all nice people. I don't even know. I could have walked out of there and he could have, whatever. He could have been like, okay, take it easy, kid. You know what I mean? He could, and it's
No
justified.
Doubt.
I don't
care.
But I just wanted to express it. I wasn't looking for anything back. I felt it. I wanted to express it. Boom, I did. And that's it.
I mean, because listen, it's a huge, I don't know if they were, and I've talked to Gretchen and Aaron who wrote those couple of seasons, and I don't know that they were planning for Matt to be like a Brandon replacement, but Brandon leaves, you come in, it's sort of whether you want it to be or not, it's big, you're walking into some big shoes, whether it is intentional or not. Was that something you were aware of, that like, oh my God, people might think I'm the new Brandon? Oh
yeah. And I would hope not. Yeah, you're gonna think that, and you would hear that. Oh God, and I didn't see myself as that.
I don't either.
B, I didn't want anyone to think that, because that crew, like when I think of that, like again, that show's 10-year run, right? I think of that like the crew, the original that really put it on the map, the third season, whatever it was, second season. I don't want to, but that
the originals, the Jason, Tori, Luke, Jenny, Shannon, even. Yeah. Right.
Yeah. And I didn't work with Shannon, but I ended up, during my hiatus, I did a TV movie with her.
Oh, no way.
Yeah. In between the two seasons, in between the 9th and 10th season, I did a TV movie, classic show.
How was she?
Awesome.
You guys have this 90210 thing in common. So were you like, I don't know if you know, but I just got finished doing I'm doing 90210. No.
Here's the thing. The way I don't, it's kind of in these environments.
No, I get it.
I suss it out. I don't know. Again, if someone's not on a show, I don't know the reasons. I don't want to.
No, you're right. Exactly.
So
yeah. Don't even go there.
I don't want to get into anything.
Right.
But with that, I will say this. I had scenes with Shannon, and she was really cool, because I remember the other Taraji P. Henson was in this,
right?
Julie Benz. I mean, this was a show called like Satan's School for Girls or something.
Okay,
a remake of the 70s.
I love it.
It was a remake of the 70s.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Who the woman from Charlie's Angels was in the original, and then she shows up in this.
Okay.
Any Hoosiers, like. I will say this because I remember, like, I remember those girls were like, here's a little thing, right? It doesn't seem like a big deal, but it's like, what's on? These are, you're sitting around sometimes, long days, and they were like in these little dressing rooms, like these little, like, they're small, they're like little pens.
Sure.
But like, she like just went out of her way and said, you can't put them in that. You got to give them something like a little bit more room. And I believe I could get that. I could be wrong, but I almost believe. And I'm going to remember it this way, that, she had just said something. And because I remember the girls saying, oh, wow, they got us like just a little to stretch out a little in. You know what I mean?
Sure.
It's not like Hot Shot. We're not talking about Hollywood.
Right, no, none of that.
We're shooting on location up in Montreal, I believe.
Okay. Yeah.
And anyway, I worked with her, and in my scene, since I got this podcast, when they said, "Oh, are you going to do it?" And I looked at all the scenes, and for some reason, I said, I never worked with Shannon, but I'm going to look up, and I YouTubed it.
Mhm.
And I found our scene, and she and I have this little scene, and in it, I ad-libbed, like I went for it, because to me, I was like, I want to make sure, like, my goal is to see if I can get her to genuinely laugh, like to genuinely
That's a
laugh.
good goal. Yeah, yeah.
And yeah, like that's because in the scene I'm supposed to do that, and in the moment she did. Now whether or not she's looking at me like, who is this dork?
Why is he ad-libbing?
I don't care. I got to laugh. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
And so I want it to go well. Like if I was a doggy, I would be that. If there's two dogs walking down, I'd be the dog to kind of lay down and be just like, hey, I'm cool. Like I'm not here to do anything. You know?
Right. No,
I'm
I
just
get it.
here
Yeah.
to get along and have fun.
Well, but on that note, somebody was asking, because there's a lots of moments in 90210 that feels like Matt is doing some ad libs. Were there moments where you did some ad libbing through the series? Was that something that they would let you do?
Here's I should say no, not at all. Everything was written. Anything I said was written.
Right.
That's what you say.
That's the answer.
What you say.
Yeah.
With that said, I'm going to say everything was written. There was never an ad lib moment. If I did, or if it, because I was thinking about this actually. I was picturing the read-throughs. So what happens, everybody, is like, which you probably all know, but anyway, if anyone's, you before you shoot the script, you do a read-through. You sit around a table and the cast is there.
Table read, yeah.
And again, everybody, this is a well-established show.
Sure.
They're a fun group, and so in that they would have fun during the read-through. And so I kind of at some point kind of went and thought like that's the way to go. You know, it's like you can have fun while you're doing the read-through. And in retrospect, I was thinking, holy good Lord, like I just thought that was because I'd never been to a read-through in my life, you know, so you kind of
this is just what we do at read-throughs,
maybe.
Yeah.
And I'm like, holy God, I've never done that since. And afterwards, it was like years after, I was like, oh my God, through my own ignorance, I hope I didn't offend like any of the writers or directors.
Oh, right. Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I'm not saying it's their fault, but it was just like, it's the tone. You kind of like ride it out and say, oh, there's
everybody's cool with it. Yeah.
All right, let's have some fun.
Right.
And so, because I love, but no, I don't think I ever did on set. I'd never ad libbed. It was always written.
Sure. Yeah. Okay. Well, let me ask then. Tiffany leaves, right? Because there's all this Kip thing. What was Tiffany like to work with back then?
Super nice. So like, and that's just it. Just so welcoming, and yeah, these are again, it's a bit surreal. So when you're like meeting someone like that, who's a part of something that is in our culture, like a huge.
I mean,
thing,
she's in two of it. She's 90210 and Saved by the Bell.
Saved by the Bell, right? So
one of those people that's able to have two incredibly large pop culture shows,
and just be so there's no one I could ever say anything bad about that I've ever worked with that I would cross paths on anything really. I have nothing but just good. I've been lucky, that way. That's just been my. Yeah. I don't know if now some people might say, God, he's so goddamn.
No, I don't think so.
Or whatever. Yeah. But from my point of view, my perspective, where I'm standing, no, I even if someone, because we all have our moments, even if someone's caught up in a moment, and we've there's always that. There's of always course. That. Yeah. You're not human being if you're not experiencing that. But I have no.
When she leaves though, so was that? I mean, the cast is going through a lot of changes. So, and you're new to this, new to the ship.
Yeah.
And you're watching this happen. What was your perspective of what the cast was going through as we lose Jason? And I feel like, Tiffany leaves the episode that Luke comes back, but I feel like Jason and Tiffany left around the same time. So it's within a few episodes of each other.
Yeah.
Was it a big goodbye in both of those cases? Was there a send-off party or anything like that? Or was it not filled with fanfare and just moved on?
I I honestly, it's like you think you're gonna remember every detail.
It's hard.
And
It's been
because
some time, man.
there
Yeah.
was so much. There was so much going on at the time, and me too. Not even just acclimating to this new show, but just acclimating to the whole living in California
Yes.
and you know, going out and trying to figure it all out, you know, of getting around town and stuff like
And
that.
or where is that place? You know what I mean? Like you're learning a community, right? What was that like for you?
And it was back when there was a Thomas Guide and you're driving around.
Map,
Just
right?
I'd never been. I mean, before I went out there, I'd never been to California. I'd never been out there. It was just such like a whoa, this is amazing. Like geographically, you're just like, whoa, this is crazy. And then, holy, it was like I remember because I feel like I saw this like in the movie Swingers. But I did see this. I did see like I remember being like cut off by someone who's driving in like an SUV, and I swear I'm not kidding. While driving, she had her backpack on, and I think she was smoking a cigar. Like it was such a scene, you know what I mean?
So
like,
LA, right?
I was like characters.
Right.
I was like, oh, this is so crazy. I love it.
How about developing Matt? How did you find Matt? I mean, it's hard, you know, it's hard.
I like that title. I like that title. Developing Matt.
How did you develop Matt? Like,
Matt
I mean,
Durning, attorney at law. You know, I didn't. It's funny because I think my first scenes were with Jenny and Tori, and in fact I think the refresher
that's right.
It was like when you come in and they were looking at the shop and everything. So it you know, it was just, it wasn't so much any like sort of character work or anything else out. It was just like connecting. I wasn't thinking too much about me. I was like doing what I had to do to connect with who I'm standing across from. So,
right.
And then just kind of let it like take off the page and kind of find it in the text and let that come through, which kind of goes back to what I was saying before, as like me as a person who really is consciously trying to find the path to be like a good person in this
Sure.
world, where sometimes you look at it from that point of view, where, you know, sometimes there might be a little edge, you know, they say bring it some edge to it or bring some
I think you
kind of
did
missed out on some opportunities to do that.
I think Matt, well, you know, because you know, for the people that make the Matt Brandon comparisons, I don't think the characters are similar at all. Like Matt was a smoker. Brandon's not a smoker. Matt will dance. Matt had a little edge. Matt was working in an office. Brandon was not doing that. You know, so there's huge differences between the characters. Was it easy from your law experience to have all of this kind of court information in your mindset, so you knew what some of the terminology was?
Yeah. It's funny, you know, like my first monologue ever was all rise, oh yeah, I'm Supreme Court County here, and I knew him as transactional business, all possessions place, all present transaction, but I'm going to duly so bound to appear, the honorable so presiding may be seated, please, no talking.
Amazing.
But anyway,
amazing.
it's ingrained.
Yeah.
So you know, working in that aspect, you have relationships with lawyers, ADAs, public defenders, bail commissioners, stenographers, other sheriffs, and again, the people that are kind of coming in and out of the system. You kind of take that with you. So when you're talking about representing someone, or you're talking, you know, you see I've seen some really awful things. I've seen, like, you know, some things that you pick a jury for, and I was like, oh my gosh, this person's despicable. And then, but the majority of things that I saw were like, man, it's like you're a victim of circumstance. You know, it's just like, so it's
What was there any lawyers or anybody that you called from your experience when you were? No.
No.
You were just Matt, you know, like
I was just Matty D.
That's awesome, man. No, it's cool. It's always cool to hear.
Trying not to piss anybody off.
Yeah.
Well, can I tell you this?
Sure.
So what happens is you get picked up for those but so I got new cast member, right? So you come on, and what happens is say like each season there'll be different pickups. So you have to like get past maybe 6 episodes, and then they'll say, okay, we're going to pick them up for the next 7, or we got you for this 13, and then we're going to pick you up for the next. So
see, the whole time you're there, you're hoping that the character gets picked up for the next.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't. You know what I mean? Like, I never thought like, oh, I hope this or I hope that or hope.
Right.
But what I never decorated my dressing room. I've never on any show that I've worked on. I never did, even for my first one, because I always felt like, holy good Lord, I fooled them at the audition. Now they're going to fire me today. And I kept waiting for it's like the door closed and a pink slip coming underneath, yeah, thanks. Thanks, but no thanks. Bye.
Thankfully, it didn't happen. Yeah.
But a funny story with that was, so after my first season, my manager, who was Randy, who was fantastic, I've been with him since. Yeah, Randy, who I met, he has a story about how this all went down. How I got on there, but I met him there. Randy James, my manager, was fantastic, wonderful human being.
He's an incredible guy.
Yeah, because
I've been so wonderful helping us out with the podcast. We've had Jenny on a bunch of times. He also is Jenny's manager as well. So
yeah, and that's how it's exactly it. And that's how I got to know him, and so it was good because I was like, all right, again, you go in there and you want to get along with everyone, and I was, and then when I started working with Randy, who's Jenny's man, I was like, okay, that's a good sign, right?
Very good sign.
Yeah, it's a good sign. So Randy had sent me when I got picked up on my contract, like to say, okay, you're gonna go. He sent me a frame with like the letter saying like, okay, you got your pick up the actor, like he framed it.
Yeah,
said,
that's
okay,
awesome.
I think you can now start decorating your dressing room. And I said that was the only thing I hung on my wall.
That's the frame, right?
I would draw maybe on the wall with pencil so I can erase it.
Right.
But I would draw like,
oh, that's amazing, man.
Yeah.
And then Vanessa joined the cast. Did you enjoy working with Vanessa Marcel?
Yeah, so I don't think I had met her before that. I don't think so,
But she's in the world that you previously came from.
Exactly, and she's out in California. I was in New York, so I hadn't met her.
Yeah.
So, but I knew her. I knew of. And,
sure. Because she was on. I think she was on General Hospital for
General Hospital, right?
Yeah.
And she comes on and just a super cool individual. I just remember like having good laughs, you know what I mean? On set, having good laughs. And even like, some times where it's like maybe personally going through some sort of struggle or something like that, or some down, you go there. And I just remember, in fact, when I got the invite, I watched a couple of podcasts, and you were talking about a story with Jenny about, I was there when Christina Aguilera was there.
That's right.
And I remember that. And I think you mentioned like Vincent, like having trouble. Cause I guess
Brian said that. Yeah.
Brian's hilarious.
Yeah.
Vince, hilarious. Like genuinely, like you would you would try to like keep it together so you get to take it and you won't screw it up.
Mm-hmm.
And I just remember just like those times where, whatever's going on, just having that in between takes, whatever, just
he couldn't say the name Aguilera, Vincent, right?
It was hilarious. Oh, you know what? Here's a funny thing with Brian.
Yeah.
I think it was the opening to the second season or maybe first season or whatever. So they shoot those openings,
yeah.
Well, there's an image of me like I'm going like I think I'm going across like I'm right. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm going like that, like just goofy because that's what you do. You just you just go across. The finger snap, this, that, other thing. People are doing things. It's a free for all.
Right. They all told me. Everyone who's done it said that it's the most stressful.
It's so embarrassing. It's embarrassing. Yeah. So again, but you go.
You're figuring it out, right?
Yeah. And who am I? I've never done anything like. So I did like that whole thing, and Brian had said to me, he's like, "Careful what you do because the thing that you find the most embarrassing and goofy is exactly what's going to be on there." And then I see the opening, and I'm like, "What is that? What am I doing? Like, what are you?"
That's amazing, bro.
But it's hilarious.
Well, let me ask you this. Obviously we lost Luke, and it's a very sad situation that had happened. And I know the fans are devastated by all that. I want to ask you about that, but I wanted to ask you about him coming back to the show. You kind of talked about it a little bit before, of what a powerful moment that was, that this character who was gone is coming back. And now you worked with Luke quite a bit. You know what I mean? Because of the triangle with Kelly and all that stuff. What was Luke like as a person, and what was it like when he came back?
Wow. Okay. So here I am on the show, right? That has been so huge and everything. And then, there's changes. And then it so happens that Luke is coming back. And we already talked about, like, oh, you got to get in that show where Luke Perry is there. And
right.
It's like, I couldn't believe it. Here comes Luke. So he comes back. And I hadn't met him yet, but he's walking around and he's like seeing everybody. He's so well loved, and the crew and everything. And he's kind of I was like, oh man, what? So here I am on the outskirts, right? Again,
first,
I don't make judgments, but I'm like, what is it? What's going to happen now? What's the set going to be like now? Is this guy going to come in and like, oh God, like take over or what? And
you don't know what to expect.
Right. And and I gotta tell you, all right. So I think Luke, like a John Deere cap. I think of flannel shirt and his jeans, and he's there and he's personable. And then I meet him, and this dude, I'm gonna tell you something, it was just so super warm and kind and thoughtful, and man, it's crazy. Because, it's almost 2 years, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so when someone was asking about it, it was actually, I think I said it to Colton, who's Randy's son.
Yeah.
When I think of somebody like Luke Perry, here's what I remember. And again, I'm going to describe something that happened about almost 20 years ago. I'm driving up the 405 northbound. I'm about to get off the Sunset exit around there. It's probably maybe the year 2002-ish or whatever, because I feel like what the DJs are talking about is the kid stays in the picture movie and something like that.
Yeah.
This is so random, right? This is random and out of nowhere. What do you? But in that conversation with these, I think DJs were talking about it or something. Someone had said, there's two types of people: those who act cool and those who are just cool. And for some reason that stands out in my mind. It's like, right? Like 20 years ago.
I get it. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Luke to me was that. Like he was that. Like it wasn't a put on, like when you kind of like leaned into it a little bit, right? With his character.
Yeah, when he was on
that
screen.
kind of,
Yeah, right.
But this dude was and we didn't keep in touch.
Right.
I did, just the way things work. And to be quite honest, I'm awful at keeping in touch.
Right.
Yeah. That's
moving
about
on
me.
to the next
I'm
thing.
weird, but I will say this. I remember the last time I talked to him. My daughter was born May 31st, all right, 2000, my daughter Lily. And I believe maybe like a week, 2 weeks, I believe his daughter was born. I think, if I'm remembering that correctly, because I know he had a son, because I met him at 7. He was a peanut. About a week or two later or something. And so Niner ended, and he called me and told me, he's like, oh, my daughter was born and this, and he like just talking like this is his second child and this is my first, but they're both girls. And we were just talking about that. We were having that kind of conversation, fathers of little girlies, and I was about to go. I just gonna sell the house and work on a production that was shooting on the East Coast up in Montreal, actually, shortly. So that was it. It was like, yeah, one of these days we'll have to keep in touch. That thing, that whole yearbook. Yeah. Let's keep in touch. Let's do this. To this day, so let's keep in touch. Let's do that. And anyway, life goes on and life goes on. But here I am, I'm talking about him, and it's just like, it's just a few years ago, just a few years, it just seems, but he was a really cool dude, Man,
Yeah.
and you know, he would talk about stories like I saw the clips from when we did the motorcycle.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that. Yeah.
Which, by the way, before we even shot it, I actually pulled a wheelie, wiped out, and did stuff because I was such an idiot.
Right.
Because I grew up riding motorcycles and ATVs.
So you thought you could do this and just.
I was like, yeah, I'm gonna do it. And I was so overzealous. I was like, yeah, and it was like a 350 or something like that. And I just like without thinking, because this is before we and I let go of the clutch and I popped the wheelie and I fell over. Anyway, but I think that's where they shoot. Did they shoot maybe like Little House on the Prairie up there?
Maybe, yeah.
Like Luke would always tell like those stories of, is it Michael Landon? Like
Yes.
Michael Landon stories and how he would treat his crew and look out for them and that. And that's how he was, you know, he would always kind of I think look out for people like, you know, in that sort of way. And I a quick little thing, and I could be wrong. And again, this is my perspective, and I could have it totally wrong. But I remember when Niner was on his 10th, and maybe that was going to be it. I don't know. But there may have been some rumblings going around, like in the hallways or whatever, that maybe he would go on, maybe he would get picked up or something. But you know, things that changed things were like Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, I think, came out or something.
Yeah.
But I just remember Lou saying quite openly to people of how, you know, I was talking about me trying to be grateful and I am truly grateful. But that was he was quite vocal in saying that I've been out there, folks. I've been out there more than 8 seconds. And a little longer than 8 seconds. Yeah. And but I've been out there, and it ain't so easy. And we have it so nice here, so nice. Let's do whatever we can to keep it
going.
And from my point of view, I could probably have it wrong. I don't know.
But that sounds like I've
but
heard.
He was like, let's do what we can to keep it going, and you know, whatever. I had a nice run, but.
Then at some point they give you Matt has a wife, which we learned through. What was that? What did you think of some of the storylines like that? Was she a great? What was her name? Cindy? Maybe I don't remember the actress's name, but
yeah. My gosh, she had schizophrenia.
That's right. Yeah, that's heavy stuff, man. You know.
Yeah. You know. I think that's it. I see, you know, I don't know. I would love to do stories like that, almost like to revisit them, you know, with a little bit more life experience and a little bit wiser. So in the moment, again, who I am and my interpretation right there, it's not, I welcome that kind of thing. You know, like I wanted to be an actor. The real movie that set me off was like, that's it, I'm gonna sign up. It was like, What's Eating Gilbert Grape? You know what I mean? Like stories about, like, you know, just I love family storylines and all that, and those relationships. So I didn't come in like that. So any sort of thing that you know is an obstacle between two people or something somewhere where it shows, especially on a show like 90210, that would kind of get into those kind of issues.
Heavy,
over the, you know,
mental health. I mean, it's always 90210 is always covering something way before, like it's still an issue today. Some of those things, you know what I mean? And I think one of the reasons why people love the show so much is they can come back to a 90210 where your wife had this mental health issue, and it's still relevant today when they watch it.
Absolutely. And even like, you know, you mentioned Tiffany. I think like her scene,
right?
Or her storyline rather, coming in, I think she, you know, she was assaulted or sexually assaulted.
And she killed her father and all that, right? Yeah.
So I mean, there are some issues and situations and topics that, you know, they really kind of get into, and so that I totally welcome that, and you know, gosh. It took me a very long time to like watch my stuff. So I don't know, you know, who knows? I hope it's all right.
I think it holds up. I wanted to ask you to it's important to ask about Jenny. I mean, you worked with Jenny Garth she was your scene partner for a lot of things.
Yeah. Fantastic.
So what was it like developing the relationship of Matt and Kelly, and then also getting to work with someone so closely?
Well, here's the thing. Again, so to kind of know what I was getting into. I watched podcasts and I saw when Jenny was on. And who said, wait, who did you have on there that mentioned about Jenny that she is so, I think she mentioned, oh my God, who was it? Anyway, blah, 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 blah. All right. Working opposite someone like Jenny makes you look better. She makes people look better. She made me look, if I look good, it's Jenny. It was her presence, her able to take any type of material. And I've been lucky, you know, you work with someone like that, but it's a rare thing to get someone who can really has that kind of spark, that light,
Right.
who can take something and really make it something special. So she made it easy for me. Because again, I said, like, I don't say things like I have anxieties. I don't say it, just say it. Like I didn't know it at the time. Like it took me many years to realize what the heck am I going through.
Right.
And she, like when I said, I remember laughs. Well, I remember that's it. You know, I love humor. I love laughing. I love laughing with people. And so there were a lot of laughs there. Even, she was great. So yeah.
Did you want the characters to wind up together at the end of the series?
Well, look, would I have liked that? Awesome. Yeah, absolutely.
Right. Yeah.
Do I feel like that should have been the case? No, I feel like it's either a Dylan or a Jason story. I think that's it. I think you kind of touched on that in the talk, and that's it. Because I said, like, I think of the crew, you know, I think of that original crew.
There are people that, you know, when in doing this podcast that wanted me to ask that because they wanted Matt and Kelly to be together. They liked Kelly with Matt. So
that was my family. That was my family.
Kudos to you. Well, let me ask you about coming out of 90210. We kind of talked about what you said, talked about what Luke said. The show ended. I've talked to Brian, and Brian said he did a show for 10 seasons, and then he thought all the doors in the world were going to be open for him, and they were not. You came in the last couple seasons, you're constantly working. I saw you in You, right? You just did.
Oh, yeah.
That was fucking awesome. Yeah.
Oh,
sorry.
Yeah. That was great. That was something. So yeah, no, I'm so.
Was it hard? Was it hard coming out of 90210?
Well, I got lucky. What happened was that show ended, and I ended up booking a pilot, and it got picked up. And I think if I'm remembering the order, and I actually meant to kind of brush again. You think you're going to remember all these things, and
sure.
You remember the most crazy stuff. But I feel like I did All Souls after that.
Okay.
Like but I could be wrong. When did I do All Souls? But anyway, that was again. That was when I said that the last time I talked to Luke was on the phone. I think I was. Yeah, I feel like I was like, well, I'm going to be going out to Canada for a while. If this show goes, you know, I'm going to stay out there, and then I might move back to New York if that doesn't go. We go out to Montreal, we shoot, and again, I think we shot maybe 6, 7 of the episodes, and that was one of those things. Not just the actor, but the show has to get picked up for the second half. It didn't get picked up, which I feel like the lead of the show read in Variety. Nobody heard. He called me up in the morning. He's like, Danny, what? They pulled the plug. What? They pulled the plug. Just read it in the Variety or whatever.
Right.
Nobody told.
Thanks for the call, guys. Yeah, right. Yeah.
That's it. Nothing. I was like, oh man. And here's the thing. I was already not decorating your dressing room. So
right.
I was already of the mindset. I was like, I don't believe I did anything or anything happens until the check clears. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Yeah.
It's
until you see it on that television screen, it might.
Let me tell you, on a particular show, which was shot away, I went there, and you know, you're hungry as an actor. It's not so much you want, but you want to be doing, you want to work, you know, you got something to say. Like, you know, I'm a guy who moved to New York because I wanted to do off Broadway and off Broadway. Right. And I wanted to work in every Harvey Firestein. Oh my God. What's his name? Weinstein.
Harvey Weinstein. Yeah.
No,
not him.
Harvey Firestein.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Oh my God. Are you serious? Are you
about him. Yeah. I know what you mean.
Oh, you gotta do torch song. You're gonna do torch trilling. Anyway, and so my goal. It's so crazy how things work, right? This is early '90s. Just think of this. I'm gonna do because I'm a young guy. I want to do things that matter. That's what you're thinking, right? It's like I'm gonna do Broadway. No, not Broadway. I'm gonna do off Broadway and off Broadway. And then I'm gonna do every fall. Woody Allen's gonna have me go into his one of his movies that shoots in New York. Before he goes off the pier. And then every Miramax picture I'm gonna be in every Mirror. It's a different world now, right?
Sure.
It's a different world, right?
Really different world. Yeah.
So you think like, wow, that's your. And anyway, but what I was going to say was I was working on this production. I hadn't worked yet. All right. It was like I'm on an ensemble. There's a lead in this ensemble. It's the one up in Montreal. And Randy is talking to one of the showrunner, producer, and he says, Danny's doing some great work. He's doing some great work. Looking really good on the dailies, looking really good, really good. And so later I'm talking to Randy, and Randy's like, how's it going? I said, Randy, I'm just so bored. I haven't even shot anything yet. He's like, what? I heard you're like really, no, that's what he did. He first brought it up. He's like, well, I heard what you're doing is really, you're looking good. You got lots of
I haven't shot.
I said, Randy, I said, I haven't shot anything yet. Yeah. And he's like, what? And so I was like, this business is cuckoo cray. All right.
Why would he say that? It is. Yeah. That's hilarious, man. So what are you doing now? What are you working on now? You have anything coming up that fans can catch you in?
No, I mean, not, it's, I gotta tell you, the pandemic, this whole thing, it kind of, I have 4 kids, I'm a family. I probably shouldn't say. It's like I look at like the traveling and that sort of thing.
Sure.
So yeah,
where are you now? Where are you looking?
I'm outside New York.
Oh, here in New York. Yeah.
Where
cool.
Are you out east?
I am visiting east. I'm in New Jersey right now, but but I'm normally out in Pasadena. Yeah, cool. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Yeah. So I'm here, and this is where I've been based out of here for
forever. Yeah.
Since 2002.
Nice.
So that's it. I mean, what did I work? I'm lucky enough every season to kind of pop up on the show Billions, which is there, you know, like an episode or two. Yeah. And
what is that experience like when you come on as a guest star with 90210, they kind of casted you in a part that they, right. So you were giving a lead character, one of the lead characters, but you've done a lot of guest starring work. I'm curious what that experience is like when you come onto the set of you, I guess became huge right afterwards, but Billions is a big show. So I mean,
huge. Such a well-written show. So
it is. It's amazing.
Levine, fantastic. Truly grateful for that opportunity. Yeah. So I was in the pilot episode of that. Mm-hmm. And just had, I think, maybe a scene and a little, you could say 2 scenes, but it's really just one real scene and one I come in with a line or 2. And that was it. And I was like, okay, that's it. But then like this next season comes and they bring your character back for an episode, and then maybe the next season for an episode or 2.
That's cool.
2.
Yeah.
Out of like, what, 12? What did they do? 12?
Yeah. It's not like the old days with 90210 where
right. 12 episodes. You get like 1 or 2.
Yeah.
Truly. So every time I feel like it's my last time on the show. And that's what I do. So so I don't really think about anything beyond of what I'm doing right then and there. And so I'm truly grateful. I love standing across from, Damian Lewis or Paul Giamatti or anyone else on the show. It's just such a fantastic group. And again, great showrunners. I think the last thing that I kind of worked on so the first show that I worked on after the pandemic, so everything shut down. So back east, like there was some stuff going on, but not really.
Not a lot, right?
Yeah. So then it was like, I think I did like maybe an episode of like, you do Blue Bloods, and I came back to Billions, and then I did a show, Bull, that was a lot of fun. So, but coming back, it was just like a different world. It was so sad and depressing because this whole thing about camaraderie and relationships and it's so intense on these type of productions. You get to know it. It's so nice, so fun. It's just like it's a different time.
Totally.
And now it's like so I have a hard time. I got really, really, really bummed out and depressed and still kind of there, but
with the
again,
pandemic
I
and
have kids, so I have no time to, you know what I
just to
mean?
lay in it. Yeah.
I have no
Right.
time to get bummed, you know, it's not about me,
Yeah.
about my children. So
And so it was a tough couple of years there, you know,
yeah,
with pandemic and all that. I wanted to ask
yeah.
you lastly, do you still get recognized from 90210, and you know, how, and what is it like being in something that is ingrained in pop culture like that? Those are my last two questions. Yeah.
It is yes, to answer your question, yes. And the last time was just probably a couple nights ago at a little restaurant diner up the road. People around, you know, around my age, maybe a little younger, and they're like, "Wait a minute, what is it? What is it? What is it?" You know.
Right.
Or the people that know right off the bat, I'm like, holy Lord, that's pretty good, because that was quite a ways ago. And now I got like 10 different colors in my hair. I got a calico cat up here, baby.
You'll get some people that are like Matt Durning, right? It's
Yeah,
like they get it.
I mean,
Yeah,
it's crazy to me. I'm
Mhm.
like, really? I mean, mask on.
Oh,
They
yeah.
have a baseball
It is
cap
wild.
on or something.
One
And then,
actress
like,
told us she gets recognized from her voice.
is
Like
that
if
right?
she's
Yeah,
walking
must be
in.
my brows. I think it's my
Yeah.
brows coming over.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, so it still happens, and and again, it's always like a, you know, a nice little,
Of course.
you know, interaction. So yeah.
What about being ingrained in pop culture that way on something that is so huge? This show 90210. I mean,
Yeah.
what was that? What is that kind of like to be in that, you know, in that space?
You mean now? Like, what's my thoughts on it now? Or,
Yeah.
you know, again, I don't know. I don't, other than being truly grateful for the opportunity, and it is pretty wild because it was big. But again, when I think of it, I think of the crew, you know, I think of the
Sure.
original crew that put it on a map.
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah, I was on it. I was on the last two, you know, 2 seasons. So yeah, grateful for it. But it's I think of them. I was a guest in their house for a while. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? It was a house that they built,
Mm.
and I was a guest, and I tried to be a respectful one. That's all.
Well, let me tell you, man, I'm so grateful for you to do this for us, for the podcast here, man. And I think your work was incredible on the show. And I've said that on the podcast before.
Oh,
Like
thank you so much.
you, Lindsay and Vincent, to a degree,
Yeah.
you guys brought stability to a show that was sort of in the last couple of years, you know, in the last
Right.
end, and you gave it the life that it needed. So
Oh, cool.
you're part of that, man. You know, you're a big
Hey,
part of
thank
that.
you.
So you shouldn't
Thank you.
dismiss what you did on that show.
Oh
'Cause it
yeah,
was-
no, truly
yeah,
grateful. But
yeah.
yeah. Thanks
Really
for saying that. I appreciate that.
I mean that too, man. It's incredible
Thank you.
stuff. I love everything that you did on the show, and I've been following you and your work, and it's just
Oh,
incredible,
thanks,
man. So
Thank you very much.
yeah, thanks for doing this, man. I really appreciate your time, and we'll catch up again soon, I'm sure.
Yeah, I hope so, man. Take
Yeah.
care.